This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Alexa Grasso, who this past weekend at the UFC Apex UFC Fight Night in the women's flyweight division defeated Viviane Araujo by a unanimous decision. The scorecards read 50-45, 49-46, and 49-46. Another big win for Grasso. She keeps moving up in the women's flyweight rankings. Mark, let me throw it over to you first. What were your takeaways from Grasso's nice win this weekend?
Yeah, it was a great win for her. It wasn't the most exciting fight we've ever seen, but it was competitive throughout. I do think she was just edging it for the most part. It wasn't necessarily the performance that she needed to grab a title shot. So I'm guessing she's going to need at least one more here, but it does keep her right there. Obviously, it's a big win either way. I thought that she was landing cleaner than Araujo all fight. Her shots seemed to have more visible impact than Araujo's did, which helped. Like, Grasso was more or less walking through shots, whereas Araujo was like getting her head snapped back, and I feel like the judges were seeing that. I loved seeing the way Grasso blended her levels or the heights of her attacks to keep Araujo thinking. There was a lot, like at the belt line, at the midsection, obviously back up to the head. I liked seeing that. She showed great hips when she needed to, which was obviously a key in this matchup. But the one thing I will say is Araujo, I think, has become much more comfortable striking. I think you could see that in this fight. You know, she, like I said, she was losing the striking with Grasso, but not like badly. You know, she was in it. But I think her becoming more comfortable in the striking has actually backfired for her a bit, because that doggedness and relentlessness that she has in chasing takedowns and dragging the fight down in any which way was not there. And a lot of times that comes for her because she's getting cracked and she's like, all right, I need this thing on the mat. And in this fight, she wasn't really getting like hurt so bad on the feet, and she was kind of in it. And I feel like she almost lost that. Like, she looked for the takedown now and again, but for the most part, I think she kind of felt like, you know, I'm okay here. Like, I might be able to make this work. And while she was, you know, okay, I don't think that feeling actually served her well, because she needed that doggedness for the takedown. She did need this thing down. And I think maybe she wasn't quite feeling that the way she has in the past, because she certainly was not pushing for takedowns and kind of chaining shots together and reshooting the way that she normally does. I don't think she felt that same urgency. And because of that, she ended up engaging in a mostly striking fight where she got edged out most of the time. So Grasso keeps it moving. I don't mean to focus more so on Araujo for the negative. Grasso obviously fought a great fight. She did exactly what she had to do. When the takedowns did come, she defended them well, and she leaned on her boxing, which we know is her bread and butter. So she keeps it moving, and we'll see who she stands across from next.
Omar, after Grasso dropped a majority decision to Carla Esparza in 2019, she is now on a 4-fight win streak in the octagon. So what do you think this win, where does this win put her in terms of her title shot aspirations? What were your impressions of her win?
I'm a big fan of Grasso. I had a lot of takeaways from that fight personally. I actually think she did a lot better than even I thought she was going to do. In my opinion, she won 4 out of those 5 rounds. I would even argue 5 out of the 5, but I would definitely give, I think it was round 4 to Araujo. They were competitive rounds. I thought they were clear for Grasso as far as I was concerned, as close as they were. I thought Grasso was visibly better in most of those rounds. Particularly impressed with her framing. I think a lot of times we see people against the cage that are getting held that try to fight for underhooks and overhooks, try to change their positions. But if you watch the way that Grasso was protecting herself from the takedowns, it wasn't all underhook. A lot of it was framing against Araujo's face and really making it uncomfortable for her to continue to plow forward. She was doing it consistently, and she was doing really well, moving off of the cage when she needed to, returning when she needed to. She was also landing knees while she was framing, basically making Araujo pay every time she came in for a takedown. And those are the things you need to do, especially against somebody who wants to implement that in their game. I think the reason that Araujo didn't get her down as much as she did is because Grasso knew what she needed to do. She made visible improvements and made specific changes to the way she fights normally and implemented that now into her game. I was worried that when she got taken down to the ground, she wouldn't be able to get back up. She proved me wrong, which I was happy to see. She was definitely on the ground for maybe about a minute and a half, something like that, but she definitely was able to pop back up, use the butterfly guard, and was able to get back to her feet and continue to do what she needed to do. I thought she did a fantastic job. I thought Araujo was a step behind in almost every interaction that they had. I thought it was a fantastic night for Grasso. I thought it was a very technical fight. I enjoyed the hell out of it personally, and I am excited to see what's next for Grasso.
Speaking of what's next for Grasso, Mark, if you think she's not quite at the title shot next, if you were the matchmaker, who would you pit her against as her next opponent?
So I thought until today that there was a super logical answer to this question. I figured once Grasso didn't necessarily blow the doors off with that performance that it probably would be Manon Fior getting the title shot against Shevchenko if she can win on Saturday, and maybe even Chookagian if it's her that gets the win. So I thought, okay, it's going to be Alexa Grasso, Lauren Murphy. It makes perfect sense. They're right at the top. Murphy just beat Tate. She deserves a big fight. But today, news just broke that Jessica Andrade is coming back up to 125 after one fight down at 115, and she is going to fight Lauren Murphy. So with that being said, I don't really know what you do with Grasso. I mean, maybe if Chookagian beats Fior, and it's not, super impressive, maybe it is going to be Grasso that gets this title shot here since Chookagian has already had one. Maybe they'll say, let's go with the fresh face. I guess that's possible, but I don't think it's what happens. So I feel like everyone else is kind of below her and doesn't make sense for her to be fighting right now. So maybe it just has to be the loser of this Fior Chookagian fight. I don't know. I don't think there's a perfect answer.
Omar, do you have any other thoughts?
No, that was my guess, would be the loser of the Chookagian Fior fight. I mean, just like Mark was saying, just based on the way that the structure is right now and everybody's kind of in that mix. Chookagian's lost now to Shevchenko twice, so it is difficult to put her up against it again, but Chookagian's been winning, so at some point it's going to be difficult to not give it to her. But I just think for right now, I think what makes the most sense is probably the loser.
If Fior wins against Chookagian, you wouldn't want to put Grasso against her?
If Fior wins against Chookagian, I think she's fighting Shevchenko.
Yeah, that's true.
It just, you need new blood for Shevchenko.
Yeah.
There's and Fior, to be fair, Fior's been looking like an animal. So,
yeah. Unless, say something changes about Valentina's timeline, then absolutely you can say, all right, it's Fior and Grasso for the title shot. Sure. Of course that makes sense. But Valentina's already been waiting. I think she's ready to, know who she's fighting here.
Okay.
She's ready to get that last ruby on that belt.
Either way, I mean, Grasso, she's putting herself in a good position in the upper echelon at women's flyweight. So congrats to her for being on the Anu MMA show marquee this week. With that said, let's move on to the co-main event of this UFC fight night. In the men's bantamweight division, Jonathan the Dragon Martinez defeated Cub Swanson by TKO via leg kick at 4 minutes and 19 seconds of the second round. Man, oh man. Devastating technique. Omar, perfect. Let me lead off with you, the Muay Thai practitioner of this trio. Give us your thoughts on the performance by Jonathan Martinez over the veteran, Cub Swanson.
Yeah, I think I had a lot of confidence in Cub's ability to defend a lot of Martinez's strikes more than seemed to be. Martinez looked fantastic. He looked fantastic from jump. Definitely proved that he's on that level, if not surpassed that level. Cub did what Cub does, though. I mean, he's, he likes to lunge in. He likes long strikes. I don't know if the weight cut did a disservice as far as his durability is concerned. I don't know if this made him a little bit more susceptible to damage. But the fact is Martinez kicks like a goddamn horse. I mean, you can listen to those kicks and it sounds like you're hitting the man with a baseball bat. Everything from his switch kick to his body kick to his rear body kicks, in the leg kicks. The leg kicks were absolutely devastating, and he hit Cub with, I don't know, 4 or 5 of those leg kicks from the inside before his leg completely gave out. The end of the first round was absolutely devastating, with Cub getting head kicked and then getting ripped right to the body with a knee. It was a rough day at the office for Cub Swanson. I don't know if 135 is the right weight class for him, but I will say, if this had happened at 145, I mean, it still seems like technique for technique, Martinez was going to beat Cub Swanson regardless of the weight class. So I was really impressed with Martinez. Absolutely impressed, and he's a problem. He's definitely a problem.
Yeah, man. Mark, what was your assessment of Mr. Martinez getting this nice W over the veteran in Cub Swanson?
Yeah, I agree with that last take. I do think that result was happening regardless of the weight class. I know I said last week I was flip-flopping on this one. I did go with Cub in the end, but I did at least stress how devastating these kicks from Jonathan Martinez are, and boy, were they ever, and I should have just friggin' listened to myself on that point. He doesn't have huge power in his hands, but any strike generated from his lower body just comes with massive power, whether it's a leg kick, body kick, head kick, a knee, anything from his lower body has huge power. And Cub did look good early, but even then you could see how hard Martinez's kicks were landing. Like from jump, he was smashing Cub to the body, and even when Cub was getting his arms up, he was smashing Cub in the forearms in a way that was, like, noticeable. Like, so many times you see a guy get the forearms up, and you don't really think twice. You're like, oh, blocked, and it almost feels the same as, like, a missed punch or whatever. These blocks, every single one, I was like, oh, my God, his arms. Oh, my God, his arms. Like, it's as if you're being hit with a bat. And then, as Omar said, by the end of round 1, everything started to go downhill. The knee lands. Cub goes down. He gets up. Body shot puts him down again, and then second round comes, more of the same. But then you get that moment where Cub gets up, and he kind of like decides, like, okay, I need to go for it, and he starts landing some shots. And just when it seems like maybe there's some hope for Cub, boom, drop by a leg kick, boom, drop by another leg kick, and then about a minute later is the leg kick. And there is not a more fitting way for Jonathan Martinez to win his breakthrough fight than by leg kick TKO. So that was a big statement to him, to the rest of this division, and a pretty awesome way to do it.
Now, this was Cub Swanson's. This was his first foray into 135 pounds, correct?
I believe ever.
Yeah,
I don't know about way earlier in his career, but at least in the time that we have known him as Cub Swanson,
Talking about matchmaking, where Cub Swanson might go from here, Mark, do you see him staying in bantamweight? Do you think you want to see him get one at 135 pounds, or would you want him to go right back to 145, sort of with his tail between his legs?
I think I'd rather see him at 145. He's never been the biggest dude. I feel like his speed, especially his hand speed, helps him at 145. I feel like he kind of loses that at 135. So personally, I like him better at 145. I have seen this rumor floating around again now of him and Uriah Faber, which is cool. So if they wanted to do that at 135, sure, sign me up. If not, I'd like to see him back up at 145. Maybe someone like a Julian Erosa, someone who's on the come up like that, I think could be a cool scrap.
Nice. Omar, any other names you'd throw out there for Mr. Swanson?
I mean, personally, I think it would be a fun fight. Maybe not for Cub Swanson, but Cub Swanson versus Adrian Yanez would be very, very, very interesting.
That would be cool. I like that, actually.
Adrian Yanez. We're a fan. We are.
Big fan.
What about Martinez, guys? Let's talk about him. Looking at the bantamweight rankings, Omar, who would you want to see Martinez go up against next?
So I got to say, I'm a little interested to see what Martinez has to offer. Pretty far up from the rankings. I'm not sure what Mark has Martinez ranked right now, but I kind of want to see him against Kyler Phillips. I know that there's a fight right now, with Kyler scheduled with Jack Shore. But I think, but I do think that fight, even if he wins, maybe he'll, Kyler Phillips will want something more, but he seems to be down for whatever. And I think stylistically that fight is a banger.
Yeah, man. Mark, any other names?
Did Jack Shore fall out of that fight?
Let's find out.
Because I just punched in Kyler Phillips real quick because I wanted to see when the date was that he was fighting Jack Shore because I forgot about that fight. And it says Kyler Phillips versus unknown fighter.
Damn.
Yeah, here we go. Jack Shore out of November 19th bout with Kyler Phillips.
There you
Was
go.
it November 19th? Hey, Martinez could be ready by then. That would actually be dope.
Didn't take any damage.
No, he really didn't. I like that. I'm actually going even a little higher, which
Oh, all right.
I get that is a bit OD.
I thought it would have been too much, which is why I didn't do it, but I'm not mad at it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
just
mad
love
at
the
it.
matchup. Like, what if we put him across from Pedro Munoz?
Wow.
I know he's still ranked very high,
Let's
but
go.
he's been losing. And to see the leg kicks those two would throw at each other, like we could just outlaw punches if we want and just tell them they can only throw leg kicks the whole fight. Like, that would be a hell of a matchup. And as much as I know Martinez has some losses, I'll get to him in my rankings later. I haven't moved him up like to this level, but matchup-wise, I just think that'd be a fun one.
Nice. I love it. Awesome, man. Great win. Great win by Jonathan Martinez. Looking forward to his next one at bantamweight. With that being said, boys, in the interest of time, I'm going to throw the rest of these bouts from UFC Fight Night, Grasso versus Araujo, into our lightning round.
We got to do true lightning here so we have as much time as possible for this pay-per-view.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Okay, in the middleweight division, Dusko Todorovic defeated Jordan Wright by TKO. Mark, go first.
What a tale of two rounds this was. Jordan Wright came out and looked really solid in round one. Then Dushko comes out in round two, starts throwing punches, and literally never stops throwing punches for what ended up being like 3 minutes. I don't know how that man didn't gas himself out fighting like that, but that was really impressive for him to change that whole fight like that, and obviously gets a big finish.
Omar, take it.
Yeah, Jordan Wright seems to still be figuring out exactly what his game is, and I think it really showed in this fight. I don't know what that round one was from Dushko, but that round two is exactly what needed to happen. It was a fantastic second round for him. He basically made Jordan Wright be like, "I'm done here." So fantastic.
Okay, in the bantamweight division, Rafael Assunção defeats Victor Henry by decision. Omar, take it.
Y'all must have forgot Rafael Assunção. Let's go. I told you boys that shit was going to happen. Clean sweep, 3-0, counter fighter. That hurt Victor Henry a lot.
Mark, take it.
Props to Omar. Not a lot of people called that one. Assunção fought a very Rafael Assunção fight. It was easy to wonder if he still had it. And the answer is yes, he does. Like, that was a classic Assunção performance. He had smart counters with power. He showed his skills everywhere. And I don't think Henry really looked bad at all. It just didn't go his way on this night. But obviously a big win for the continuation of the career of Rafael Assunção.
Real quick, I want to point out that Henry looked fantastic. And I kept thinking to myself, what do you do in those situations when you're hitting somebody, you're timing things right, and the man just takes it and blasts you in the face? What are you supposed to do? And I think the only thing I've come up with personally is you got to add more feints. You have to make him miss the block. You have to make him want to block one way and then you catch him somewhere else. He got too content playing into that game of letting him get hit, just trying to put shots together. And I don't think he ever adapted to the fact that you're not doing anything with these shots. But
Love that take.
Side point.
All right, in the light heavyweight division, Alonzo Menefield takes out Misha Serkinov by knockout. 1 minute, 28 seconds. Round number one is the official time. Omar, take it.
First of all, good on you, Mike, for calling round one. I had round three. I figured we would at least see a little bit of a back and forth, but definitely not. Serkinov fought scared. I don't blame him, but it's just not the way you're really going to win a fight like that, fighting timid and scared. And it allowed Menefield to tee off. Apparently, we need to start calling this man Pat Barry Alonzo Menifield because ever since apparently he's hooked up with Pat Barry, this man is on a different level. If this is the trajectory, the light heavyweight division needs to watch out.
Mark, take it.
Agree. The Pat Barry connection has paid dividends for sure. I don't know if you guys focused on Misha Serkinov's left arm after I brought it up last week. His left arm looks like it is half the size of his right arm. It is
I didn't
very
notice.
weird. Like in the circumference of it. It looks like it's a different person's arm. It's very strange. From certain angles, you don't notice it, and then it will hit you with an angle where you're like, what the fuck? So I don't know what happened to his arm, but something happened to his arm. Anyway, Alonzo Menifield killed him. I thought he literally killed him. Like, there was one shot at the end of that was wholly unnecessary. I don't know if they had issues going into this fight, but that last shot seemed like a bit much. I'm guessing that is the last time we see Misha Serkinov in the octagon, and Alonzo Menifield, as Omar touched on, has absolutely reinvigorated his career.
Oh, also, let's get Alonzo Menifield a public speaking coach or something like that, because that post-fight interview, that shit is one of the roughest things I've ever seen in my life, my guy.
I actually thought it was endearing.
It was like getting rubbed in the ear with sandpaper. It was terrible. We need to figure that out. Good fighter, but Jesus, that interview was no. Mm-mm.
By the way, when you were like, good job, Mike, for picking Menifield by a round 1 knockout, I was like, I did? And
Did
then
I?
I remember that you guys asked me to text you my picks, and I was texting you like from the grave, like full stomach flu. I was like this. I was just like,
It's a good one. It's a good one.
all right, let's keep going.
Nice.
Right. In the bantamweight division, the featured bout on the prelims, Martinez defeats Brandon Davis by split decision, 29-28 on 2 of the scorecards. Mark, go first.
This was a nice little scrap. I do think the right man won. I think Mana won each of the first 2 rounds. That left hook that he would throw over the right hook of Davis was a big key, landed a lot. And Brandon Davis battled. He certainly won round 3, but not enough, and a nice win for Mana.
Omar.
Yeah, I don't even know if Mana's going to be excited after that win, because it seems like Coach is ready to beat his ass. What's homeboy's name again? I don't know why it just dropped out of my head.
Krause?
Yes, James Krause. I don't know what happened there.
Dude, I love
James Krause, bro. James Krause was pissed.
Yeah, he was.
He was pissed. I hope he gets some sort of credit for that win, because I thought it was a solid win. The first 2 rounds I thought were clearly Mana Martinez. I'm not sure what the judge saw in that first round to make him think otherwise. There's one judge that gave it to Davis. I'm not sure why, but I hope he gets some credit from James Krause, because it really wasn't a terrible performance. I could see improvements need to be made for sure, but James Krause was a little too pissed for that kind of performance. I thought it was solid.
Real quick side note, I'm such a big James Krause fan, like as a talking head on MMA. The guy seems like he has a PhD in fighting.
Oh, I love him.
I would love to see Krause. I don't know if he wants to do this. I'm sure there's a long line of guys who want to.
Be on
I
our
would love
show.
to see him do color. I think he'd be great.
Oh, he would be great.
I'd be down for that. Listen, Brandon, our James Krause version of the champ here, Brandon Moreno.
Oh yeah.
James Krause's version of Brandon Moreno has been fantastic, dropping people with body shots here. So I'm here for it. I love James Krause, but he seemed a little over the edge there.
Okay, in the
Just real fast. He's a big, known gambler. He's on shows a lot,
Is he
giving
really?
his bets and things like that. MMA gambler.
well now that's
And I was seeing a lot of tweets where oh fuck, Krause was nervous that Mana Martinez was gonna fuck up his parlay.
Oh my god.
that's probably going to be in the Sphere, right?
It
The
will
gambling?
be.
Okay, cool.
Indeed.
In the
All
middleweight division, Jacob Malkoun defeats Nick Maximo by unanimous decision, shutting him out on the scorecards 30-27 all the way across the board. Omar, take it.
I'm going to take just an extra second in this one, because this one was really annoying to me, because Nick Maximov looked pretty decent in the first couple minutes of the first round. And I was sitting here what the hell is going on here? He's looking all right. And then he throws hooks improperly and blew out his knee throwing a hook. And just like limped around for the next couple rounds. And I was trying to figure out, is this even a proper way to judge somebody and how they're fighting if they're limping the entire time? But then at the same time, I was like, bro, you did this shit to yourself. The boy didn't even hit you. In fact, he went out of his way to not hurt your leg, and you still hurt your leg. So I don't know, bro. I was done with Nick Maximoff last week. I think I'm still done with Nick Maximoff this week. The fight wasn't the most amazing fight in the world. Malkoun did what he needed to do, but hands up.
Mark, take it.
Yeah, Omar is very anti-Nick Maximov, and I'm not pro-Nick Maximov at all, but you got to admit that we didn't get to see anything in this fight. I mean, the early going was really intriguing, watching the wrestling exchanges between these two guys. Like, it looked so competitive.
Yeah.
And then whatever happened to Nick's knee happened, halfway through round one, and immediately he couldn't stay off his back. It was just takedown after takedown after takedown. So, obviously something changed in the fight when we went from these great wrestling exchanges to that. So it sucked. I feel like we, obviously Malkoun does well. The guy's single leg. I mean, on a hurt fighter, but he's always landed that single leg. It's unbelievable how good he is with the single leg. Look good, gets a win, but feels like we didn't really get to see the wrestling clash that I was hoping to see.
Yeah.
All right. In the featherweight division, Joe Anderson Brito defeats Lucas Alexander by submission via rear naked choke. 2:02 of round number 1. Mark, let's stick with you. What's your take?
Joe Anderson Brito, man. The slams, the viciousness, the suddenness of the choke. Like, this guy just comes out at 100 miles per hour and is entertaining as hell. And he needed to win impressively over a short notice opponent, and he did exactly that. So, yeah, perfect night.
Omar.
I'm pretty sure Joe Anderson Brito hit this man with a rock bottom like twice in this fight. Like, the man was full in the air, legs parallel to himself, and just got slammed. It was absolutely insane. I will also say the man Brito seems like a parasite, because once he's got a hold of any limb on your body, he slithers his ass all the way up until he backpacks you and then absolutely wrecks your life. He looks terrifying. I don't know what that gas tank looked like, because he looks like he expends a stupid amount of energy doing all of that, but he got it done in what, less than 2 minutes? So who are we to say anything? I'm concerned maybe about the top tier, whether this game plan is going to continue to work against guys who maybe are not as easily susceptible to this game. But
we saw
as
it
of right now,
in his debut, remember? Algio survived it and won.
And he gasses. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. But for right now, goddamn, that man is terrifying.
Mark.
I went.
Oh, you went. Shit, sorry. Okay, in the women's strawweight division, Piera Rodriguez defeats Sam Hughes by UD. Omar, go first.
Yeah, I liked this fight as well. I thought it was really competitive, and I thought Sam Hughes definitely brought some pressure. I think if there was any kind of kink to Rodriguez's game, I would think it's the cardio. But I think she tried to manage it as best she could. The clinch game with her, though, was strong, and I loved every minute of it. The plum clinch that she has, her ability to quarter turn in the plum clinch and then land the knee off of it. Her clinch game was fucking beautiful, to say the least. So, if nothing else, that was a big takeaway for me in that fight.
Mark?
Yeah, I like this fight, too. It was a close fight. I'm sure it's a tough loss for Hughes. But I do think there was an argument to be made that Piera won every round of that fight. I thought she showed off her complete game, leaned on the takedowns when she needed to, and stays undefeated.
Nice. Okay. Moving on down. At a catch weight of 129 pounds, Tatsuro Taira, I hope I'm saying that right, defeats CJ Vergara by submission via armbar. 4 minutes and 19 seconds of the second round is the official time. Mark, take it first.
I like this dude, man. He fights so calmly. He looks like a much more veteran fighter than he actually is. The grappling is the real deal. That switch to the armbar was sudden and filthy, and he's a dangerous dude. He's 2-0 now in the UFC, still undefeated, and I'm very interested to see who they put him across from next.
Omar?
That's the Tyra that we expected to see in the first fight in his UFC debut. And I think it's safe to say at this point, I think it was the debut nerves. You know what I mean? It was a new setting, bigger stage, eyes on him. And I think the moment might have gotten to him. And that's saying a lot considering the man still won. But this is the Tyra we expected to see. It was nice to see. And now we get to go from here. I'm excited what he's got next.
Okay, just I think one more.
Yes,
in
sir.
the welterweight division, Pete Rodriguez defeats Mike Jackson by brutality via knockout at 1 minute 33 seconds of round number 1. Omar, go first.
I struggle with talking too much shit about guys who practice martial arts and, you know, who try to learn and try to improve. But Mike Jackson is fucking terrible. And I mean that in the most respectful way humanly possible, because he's not great. Pete Rodriguez was, I thought, solid. I thought his movement was a lot better. His pressure was fantastic. And he read Mike Jackson's game, and it didn't take very long to do so. Mike Jackson was doing a lot of heavy ducking to one side or the other, regardless of what it was. He was basically yelling at Rodriguez to knee him in the face. And that's exactly what happened. Mike Jackson loses by death.
Mark, take us home.
Yeah, I mean, Omar pretty much handled that one. That went just about the way we thought it would. What a friggin' knee. Good Lord. My guess is that sends Mike Jackson far away from the UFC, and that's the last we see of him.
Yeah.
Pete Rodriguez gets himself in the win column in the UFC and picks up a murder.
But guys, Mike Jackson clowned on CM Punk in CM Punk's second UFC fight.
And see, this is why it's a problem, right? Because CM Punk, I almost have more respect for, because the man had all his cards on the table. He did something that if any one of us was asked to do, we would all scream in eternal fright. Exactly. But this man took on an almost impossible challenge, put himself out there, and got his ass beat for it. And this man acts like he's, you know, some sort of elite fighter toying with this guy, which seemed wild to me. And it just goes to show that he wasn't even on the minimum level here in the UFC either. You know what I mean? And it just, I've never been a fan of him. His antics in that fight really turned me off to him in general, but it was always nice to see him get knocked out.
Sure. All right, boys. Well, that does it for this week's lightning round. Our full recap of UFC Fight Night Grasso versus Araujo. With that, let's put a bow on this event.